In this episode of Detroit Performs, a family turns a hobby of creating furniture out of barrels into a business. A photographer tells Detroit's history through its architecture. And welding against the odds. It's all ahead on this edition of Detroit Performs.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta Faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Funding is also provided by the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Detroit Performs. I'm your host, DJ Oliver. You guys smell that good food? No? Well, let me tell you, it smells delicious, because I'm coming to you from Metro Detroit's first and only food truck park, Detroit Fleet. We'll learn more about this place later in the show. But right now, let's check out who took whiskey barrels and created this sweet sign behind me, Motor City Barrels.
I think the rustic, refurbished stuff is big, you know, people are just drawn to it.
A lot of people like the look of it, the darkness, it just kind of like pops.
I think it's a novelty. There actually is a younger generation. I've noticed over the past 10, 12 years that they've gotten into like the bourbon and scotch and whiskey, and they've gotten away from like Bud Lights and Budweisers. So I think that's a lot of the customers we get.
I was always good with my hands. I mean, attention to detail, that's, a lot of people tell me that. But I always put in the extra effort to make it look nice, you know. Rob got married and he had a bourbon bar and a cigar bar. We used the barrels and made tables out of them. Then we didn't know what to do with them, so we started creating different products. And I thought it was going to be a hobby. We were all about recycling and reusable products, and so we started getting into that, and we were the whiskey barrels. That was probably maybe 6 months after we got going. We said, you know, there's something here, and then we were like, wow, this is a functioning business now, and it's just going crazy. It started out just with 2 people. Now it's, you know, 7 people with me and the wife. My nephew and T's married to my niece, you know, so everyone's pretty much a family.
Daryl and Nancy have literally been my second parents since I was about 10. Daryl's so creative and cool to be around, and you learn so much. When we started, like just some of the stuff we were attempting to make, I was like, I don't know how we're gonna do that, because you know, working with wood and things that are square and level and flush and plumb, it's a lot different working with the barrels. Even just getting the right barrel, making sure the bands are lined up. Like some bands, they might be off a ½ inch, and you want it to line up and be uniform.
We make a A-frame wine rack, and we take the whiskey and we put wine bottles on it. And then there's bottle openers. We make a stave bottle opener with a magnet that's behind the opener, so when you open your bottle, it sticks. You can't see it, it's buried underneath the wood, but it sticks to the piece of wood when you open your bottle, so kind of creative. You know, people really like that. And we got the half barrel hideaway. And then we got the hallway table, and we have staves with lasered, like bourbon maybe do it on it, and different sayings. The dog dishes, we can make them any size, any height. So if you have a cat, we've made some for cats. And then we make a half barrel, quarter barrel for pet toys. And we made dog beds. There's a lot of things, it's never ending.
We do wedding barrels with the cards and the slit at the top, and we make a door on the side. And we made a dancing barrel for like Irish dancing, and we put like hardwood tops on the barrels, and they danced on top of the barrels and stuff like that. And we made grape crushing barrels.
We make the wine bottles that hold the thing with the glasses fit on, and it's a nice centerpiece, and like a lot of women have been buying those and putting them right in their table. The best part about working with these products is it's one of a kind, handmade, there's no patterns. When you make it, that you made that. And the worst part about it is it's one of a kind, handmade, there's no patterns. You know, so it's a catch-22 there. There is a good process.
First we take a barrel apart, and then that's always a mess. So we clean that up and then take it in here, and we mark what we have to make and how many we have to make of it. And then I usually fill in all the cracks, like drilling the holes and kind of prepping it for the sanding process. Usually I make the smaller type of products like the bottle openers and the bottle towers.
It's a ton of fun. It really is. Like when you get done with it, like no one else has done that, and you take a lot of pride. You walk out of here, sense of fulfillment.
It makes it special to make it and see how it goes, and them telling you that it worked out perfectly, and it just makes everyone happy.
It's the smiles off the customers. They come in here and go, wow, that's really cool. And that's what I do. I mean, I love to see that. People come in here and praise our work, and they love our stuff, and that's what word of mouth is powerful, you know. Or they'll come to their house and see the dog dish, and they have to have one, so it's going good that way.
We have a lot of fun here. It's not always a work thing. There's a lot of laughs, and it's fun to make the products that we make, and the vision that Daryl has for everything, how organized he is. So like just being around those kind of people always make you better anyways.
You feel at home really, and I've known these people like pretty much my whole life, so we all want to make everything as good as it can be.
When I'm building stuff, I always think, would I put this in my house? Like, would this go right by my front door? And if it wouldn't, then we'll take it apart and reuse it for something else, or you know, try to make it better. And so that's kind of my 100% guarantee that the customer will be satisfied with their product.
You know, we all kind of look after each other and say, hey, you know, do this, do that, or whatever, trying to make a better product. We got to make it work, you know, because you're trying to support everybody and take care of everybody. So, you know, it's something that drives you, because you don't want to fail and, you know, have everybody else fail along with you. So that's the drive right there. It makes me proud to do this, you know. Finally, you know, after doing a job so long, this is like giving me more of an enjoyment.
You can learn more about Motor City Barrels, as well as all the artists we feature on DetroitPerforms.org. Now let's check in with photographer Jeff Morrison, whose book shows off the beautiful buildings dotting the Detroit skyline.
One of the things that's really interesting about this church, this is Trinity Episcopal Church, was built at the end of the 1890s, and it has about 142 different sculptures on the outside of the building. And along the outside near the roof are gargoyles. And every place there is a gargoyle on the outside of the building, there's a corresponding angel here on the inside of the building, a stone-carved angel. So it makes for an interesting juxtaposition of characters. You have the evil leaving the church. The gargoyles are all moving away from the church, showing that there's no place for evil within the church. And then you have the angels up here, and most of them are holding musical instruments or singing, and pointed into the church. I've always had an interest in architectural photography since I was really young. I have an interest in history in general. So I'm publishing a book called Guardians of Detroit. It's a first of its kind survey of architectural sculpture in Detroit. As I started working, it grew and grew, and now we're at about 350 pages. And I'm leaving things out that I'd really like to include, because there is just so much. Detroit has such an incredible wealth of architectural sculpture. A lot of that information is available right here. The Burton Library at the main library, the Detroit Public Library, the main library across from the DIA. There is a library at Historic Trinity Lutheran Church on Gratiot called the Dow Library. That's spelled D-A-U, not D-O-W. And it has to do with Dow was a pastor at the church, and he started a library about the church itself, and it grew to encompass all the different churches in Detroit with information about them a lot of information there. When you're talking about architectural sculpture in Detroit, everybody, or almost everybody, has heard of Corrado Parducci. He's responsible for architectural sculpture on almost every major building that went up between the 20s, starting in the 20s and into the 30s. He originally worked in New York, came here to work on a project, got so much work that he stayed and did an incredible amount of work on these buildings. But there's a lot of people before and after. Giza Marodi was brought here from Hungary to do the sculpture on the Fisher Building. He wanted to create a whole new style of artwork for that building, and his style was based on old Hungarian styles, but also he brought his own sensibility to it. So that's some incredible stuff. Marshall Fredericks, who did the Spirit of Detroit statue, everybody is familiar with that statue, did the work on the Rackham Memorial. And it's a whole program of sculpture that the Rackham Educational Memorial Building. What's really interesting about doing the research about these buildings is finding the stories of the sculptors, the way Corrado Parducci worked 80, 90 hours a week, slept at his studio most days during the boom years because he had so much work. There's a couple of copper statues on top of the old Wayne County building. They're called quadrigae. They're women in a chariot being pulled by horses. And one of them was damaged in the wind in the 1970s. And Marshall Fredericks had kind of appointed himself the guardian of public art in Detroit. And when he found out about it, he went up there and examined them. They took down the pieces that were damaged. One of the arms was bent and a piece had fallen off. And he took those pieces back to his studio and fixed them, and then they went and put them back up. So it's kind of a neat story about how one of the more modern artists fixed one of the older treasures of Detroit. There's a church in Detroit called Fort Street Presbyterian Church. It's one of the first buildings featured in the book. And on the one side, the side that is exposed to traffic, there are some faces up along the cornice that are kind of interesting to see, kind of unique. And the other side of the building is hidden from view from the street by a community house that was put up afterwards. It's also part of the church. So I figured there must be some pictures there, some sculpture there on that side of the building. And I went inside and asked, and they gave me access. And the only way you can see these faces is to go out a window and onto the roof of the community building. And then there's a ladder that goes up to another level, a steel ladder. And they're really, really unique faces. Very interesting expressions, interesting ones wearing a bowler cap with a little monocle. And they're just really neat things that you can't see from the street. No one's been able to see them except from inside the church for almost 100 years. I see a building and I start to wonder, when it has architectural sculpture on it, I start to wonder, why is it there? What does it mean? What does it represent? Obviously it's there to be decorative, but it's also, the decoration has meaning. So I start to wonder about that, and that's what got me interested in the first place, is wondering about the stories. You don't see it all at once. You see one or two things that really stand out, and then as you walk around, you start seeing more and more. And that's really exciting to me.
What's up, guys? I am here with Katie, who is the co-owner of Detroit Fleet. How you doing, Katie?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So tell all viewers out there, I love to eat, first of all.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here. Tell us about how Detroit Fleet got started.
Well, we own Delectable Food Truck. We started that 4 years ago, and we hit the streets of Metro Detroit, and we loved the idea of the food truck, and we kind of were figuring out what's our next step. And we saw food truck parks all around the United States and not really in the Metro Detroit area. So we decided, hey, this would be a great area for it, and this would be a really cool idea. So we decided to bring it to Metro Detroit, to Ferndale, and it's been awesome.
And what's the response been like so far?
It's been really, really great. We opened last July, and our first season of the food truck patio was amazing, and the response has been phenomenal.
So you own one of the food trucks out here, right?
I do. I own Delectable Food Truck, and there's other stationary trucks out there as well, Pita Post and Mac Shack, and then we have a rotating truck, different rotating trucks that come in every single week, and they're all Metro Detroit-based trucks as well.
And you also have a boozery here? So what
yeah,
concoctions do you have come out of the boozery?
I mean, boozery is just another name for a bar, but we thought that was kind of a cool and unique name.
Absolutely.
So we have a ton of great concoctions that we put together here. Our draft list is amazing. We have 16 taps, so we rotate a lot of like local and also just anything great. And then we also have seasonal craft cocktails and a small wine list and just yummy stuff coming out of the boozery for sure.
What kind of food can we get from these food trucks out here?
So it's an array of food, absolutely. So I mean, Delectable serves all comfort food served in a bowl. Pita Post is Israeli street food. Mac Shack is mac and cheese, and then our rotating truck is all different types of trucks. So pizza, donuts, everything. And then we have a house menu too with sliders and tacos.
Okay, you had me at sliders. Okay.
Yeah, well,
so what's the camaraderie like with all the food truck?
It's great. Yeah, I mean the food truck scene is definitely a family. You know, with the Metro Detroit food trucks, we all help each other out, and yeah, it's definitely a very cohesive team.
I like to hear that. So what's your best part about being like working here in the food truck part? What do you love about it?
I mean, I love to feed people and I love to eat, and I love to eat as well. So I think just the response of seeing people go out and eat at the food trucks and talking amongst each other about what they got and what those people got, and I got that last time and all that, like that's the exciting part, is seeing the communication between family members and friends and all sitting at a table and eating together. That's what I like.
Well, I look forward to experiencing some of this food today. So thank you so much, Katie. We appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Now let's check out some upcoming events happening in and around the D. You can find forks, spoons, and knives welded together in Gary Hovey's unique animal sculptures. While he loves his craft, maintaining his technique is becoming a greater challenge every day.
I have art in my background, but not like college or anything like that. When I was younger, I was into doing clay work. And then when we moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, I went and saw a job that said Fine Arts Foundry. I did that for several years, and I was in charge of the metal shop in the foundry, and so I learned how to weld there. First, I saw John Kearney's work where he took bumper ends and welded them together and made animals that were large. We saw his work in Wichita, Kansas, 35 years ago. I was a teenager at the time, and I didn't know how to weld. I thought it was a great idea, but then I forgot about it, and one day I thought of it again. I told my wife, I said, I ought to buy some flatware and try that idea that I had 30 years ago. And she said, yeah, so I went and did it. I made a dog.
The first one he did was quite good. It's a little running dog. He said he ran like a freight train. He really had a knack right from the beginning for capturing the character of an animal.
I had an early onset Parkinson's disease, and I just had a little twitchy finger. And I went in and tried to figure out what was going on, and they came out with, you have Parkinson's. So I've dealt with this for 21 years. It really is kind of a problem, because I can't move fast. I'm a freezer. I'm not a shaker, really. I can't move once I freeze, and so Then I either lay down or just quit doing whatever I'm trying for a while. And then I go back to it. So I get in like 4 hours to 6 hours on a good day of work. I can either just lay down and give up, or I can just keep moving, you know? And I've decided that I want to keep moving.
For Gary, physically, dealing with the Parkinson's disease is a big deal. There have been several times when it's just come to be like, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm gonna have to quit. He would just be at a really low point, and then we'll manage to work through it.
I have to tell you, my wife is just the greatest. She critiques my work, supports my work. She drives me everywhere I need to go, and she takes care of my internet stuff. She communicates with people. She's my banker. She's everything. And so I couldn't do it without her. I really couldn't.
It's just there are some things that Gary doesn't find easy to do anymore. I encourage him a lot, because there's times when he just feels like things aren't going as well as he'd liked, and he doesn't see the point anymore, whatever he needs, and I try to be in tune to that and help him with it. He says it's not done until I give it my final approval.
Make sure they're all stiff on there too. But maybe, now, the first place I'll start is like on a heron, for instance. He comes off a base, I'll make that first leg straight and work on making everything centered. I try to make the piece from the head down. If I make the head I like, then I'll finish the piece. I put the forks and spoons on top of this cage that I built in there, the body shape. So I limit myself to forks, knives, and spoons. And I could do it with other pieces of metal, but I don't. It has a uniqueness to it, you know. And so I do have to use new flatware sometimes, but it is less than 2% of it. Everything else is used flatware. I try to keep it eco-friendly that way. I'll see an animal on TV or in a magazine, and I'll go, "Oh, that's a cool animal. I think I'll try and build one of those." Or I'll see in my mind what flatware to use for an animal. I try to get the animal to look like what I think the animal would look like. I also try to put what I call attitude into my pieces. I did a family of gorillas. I tried to make the baby look like he's having fun. Or you look at the heron, and he looks like he's going to do something to you because you're bothering him. It's just a cock of the head a little bit.
I think people are drawn to Gary's work because it's not expected. They can't really figure out how he did it. How did he get a face out of forks, knives, and spoons? And they start looking at the individual pieces that are in it, and maybe they see grandma's pattern in it, or a pattern that they have, and they start enjoying just looking at the textures and the way they work together.
I've got a condition that I'm still able to produce stuff, and I enjoy that respect. You know, even though I've got Parkinson's disease, I haven't given up, and I'm not going to give up till till I have to. You know, it's like I'll keep doing this as long as they keep selling. I'll keep making them, and as long as people keep thinking I have nice artwork, then I keep at it.
And that wraps it up for this edition of Detroit Performs. As always, for more arts and culture, head to DetroitPerforms.org, where you'll find featured videos, blogs, and information on coming arts events. Also, check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'd like to thank Detroit Fleet and the food truck chefs for letting us tour this place and get some grub. I'm telling you, you're going to want to experience the taste for yourself. So, come on down to Ferndale for a feast to remember. Until next Tuesday. Get out there and show the world how Detroit performs, y'all. I'm DJ Oliver. Thanks for watching, guys.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Funding is also provided by the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.